normally doing messages. So then, okay, so we'll give another 5 minutes time to ready for the class. So then we can start, right? Okay. Hi, Champika, how are you? So, Manisha, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, people are joining still. Anyway, we'll start the class. Um, so, I plan to start the class with a question paper, right? So, people, you are having any difficulty or any, uh, you know, um, doubt or any questions, you can raise your voice, right? Not only the student who participated for the classes, so new students, this Amila and Samantala and then Ushani, Nick. So all the people can ask questions, you all can clear doubts. So what's the date you are having exam? I'm asking a very simple question. So 19th December, right? So we are having only 2 weeks time. So then how we can ready for the exam? What we have to do? What's the approach we have to follow? Uh, so do we need to get this as another exam, or we need to pass this exam? So these are the things coming into our mind, right? So this is the 11th hour actually. So then we can ready for this exam definitely. Uh, how we can do that? What's the point we can start? What we should do? So my advice is you have to start from past papers, right? You have to start from past papers. That is must. Why I am telling that way? Why I am telling that way? I can say that you have to refer this standards and reading guides. So many materials are there, but I am telling that you have to start from uh, past papers, right? Past papers, you have mock papers. So people who are participating for my classes, you know that the value of the papers and how we are doing papers. So that is the must, right? Give me a minute. So we'll start from a question paper. I'm opening the mock paper. Last time mock paper, right? Hmm. Let's start with. So this is the mock paper. You know the structure of the paper. Paper consists with three parts, right? First one consists with 10 multiple choice questions. Keep in mind, 10 multiple choice questions, right? So then, second part, it consists with two questions, two or three. This is second part, right? Second part consists with four questions, right? So then, third part, it consists with two questions, right? It consists with two questions. Altogether, you have six questions. Not six questions, seven questions, including MCQ part, right? Section 1, we have 10 MCQs. Section 2, we have 4 questions. Section 3, we have 2 questions, right? So then, what's the plan you have? How you are starting the paper? කොහොමද paper එක පටන් ගන්න? Section 3 section එකෙන් පටන් ගන්නවද? Are you starting from MCQs or then mid section, or what's the area you are starting? So it depends. It depends. My one suggestion is you can start from MCQs. So then other suggestion is you can start from section B, section 2, right? Section 2, you can read, you have a reading time 15 minutes, right? 15-minute reading time. Don't read the MCQ questions, right? Don't read that. you have to read the second part. Second part, 4 questions. If you can read 4 questions within 15 minutes, you can start the paper very well. Why? You can select the best question you can attempt from these 4. So then attempt that, right? So then you can come to MCQs. So then again you can go to mid part, other 3 questions. Try to complete that as soon as possible. So you have 10 marks for these 4 questions. It means 40 marks. 40, and for MCQs 20 marks. And then final part, it consists of 40 marks, right? So my suggestion, so you have to attempt firstly to the section 2. Select one question and do that, and come to MCQs, complete that. Then my suggestion, you have to start the third section, final section. Answer that. So then once you are completing these MCQs, 10 MCQs and one question from section 1, already you have entered to the exam, right? You have entered to the exam. You know that first 10 minutes time, you are like, uh, you are ready for the exam. නිකන් පාවෙනවා වගේ exam එකට ගිහිල්ලා. හරිද? එතකොට you can't think. There's no link between you and paper. So that link should be strong. We have to give time. So it means you are doing the easiest one, taking time, and you can complete that easily. And then you are doing the MCQs. It definitely this MCQs covering all the parts of the syllabus, right? It means so your brain going here and there. It's an exercise for your brain. So then after that, you starting the heart of the question paper. It means the 40 marks, the final section. Start that. And that is, it may be the mid hours of your exam. So complete both questions. So it means you have earned 40 marks plus 20 marks 60 and another 10 marks 70, right? So for final hour, you have only 3 questions in the mid part. In the mid part, you have 3 questions. Attempt that. Those are easy questions, 10 mark questions, right? You can easily attempt and complete that. So that's the best approach I can suggest. But it depends. You can start from MCQs and then you can start the final part, right? So whatever the options, so at the mid hours you have to spend mid hours should be used for the final part, section 2, right? 2 questions, 40 questions, 40 marks should be attempted at the mid of the paper. So that's my guideline for paper, right? Right. So how about MCQ paper? It's not this hypothetical MCQ paper, right? So that advanced level or other this exams, we are having 4 answers and we can easily pick it one, right? So here they have given 4. Again they are giving counter questions. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, all of the above. This is the hardest type of questions we are getting. We have to know the in and out of the syllabus. Otherwise, you can't give the answer. You have to know all the procedures to give this answer. That is not easy, right? We practice on that. So then you can understand the paper. So, shall we do one question firstly? Shall we do this one? So I am starting not from the beginning. I am starting the hardest part of the syllabus. Audit conclusion, right? Making අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම paper එකට එනවා. paper එකට ඉරි ගහන එකකුත් එනවා. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම essay type question එකකුත් එනවාමයි, right? ඒක නිසා this is a really critical area you have to learn. So shall we start from this question? You are in the process of finalizing audit of financial statement of Colombo Private Limited for the year 31st March 2020. The company has been in the business of import and sales of electronic appliances. You could not observe physical inventory verification of the company as of 31st March 2020. Due to curfew imposed by the government, so do you want to open the video? I don't think that you don't want to open because I assume that you are professionals, you are going to be chartered accountants, you are here to learn, right? Otherwise you can leave. So please concentrate and learn something. That's what I wanted to give you. And other purpose is big kind of a marketing, right? Marketing of the institution and to give a kind of a social service. So that is the purpose. That's the main purpose of the class. If you want further advices, so we are conducting this revision for only 2 days. Today 3 hours and Thursday 3 hours. Within these 6 hours, I am completing the syllabus. I am covering all the areas. I am discussing all the areas. If you are beginner, if you are kind of a person having rough idea of auditing, you will be a person to start learning and you will be, I am not giving a guarantee to you can get 50 marks from the exam before this, after this revision, but I am telling that you can start doing, earning 50 marks. ඔයාලට පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් මේ ක්ලාස් එකේ. අතරමං වෙලා හිටියනම්, අතපතක ගා හිටියනම්, ගිය පාර ෆේල් වෙලා හිටියනම්, whatever the situation, you can start from today. Read the study guide, read whatever the materials you have, right? Auditing is same, auditing is auditing, right? Assurance is assurance, advanced auditing is advanced auditing, right? So you have to have that pure understanding. What do you mean by assurance? What do you mean by advanced auditing? Auditing, review engagement. හැමදේම හොඳට දැනගෙන ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? හරි. Shall we start from the hardest part, audit conclusion? මේක තමයි අමාරුම. තේරෙන්නෙම නැත්තේ. එතනින් තමයි පටන් ගන්න. Right? Okay. So then this is a electronic appliance company, right? So because of COVID-19 pandemic, so government has imposed this restriction for the movements, the travel restrictions. So because of that, we can't attend to the inventory verification, right? So then it says that we have not been able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in respect of inventory by performing alternative audit procedures. So we can't do any alternative audit procedures as well, right? Inventory represent 80% of the total assets of the company as at 31st March 2020. Inventory represent 80% of total assets. How material is that, right? Yes. 31st March 2020. Profit for the year ended 31st March 2020 was 820 million. Whereas inventory asset that was 3,152 million. What form of audit opinion an auditor would express on financial statement of Colombo Private Limited for the year ended 31st March 2020? So you have to have a visualization ability once you are reading the question. Otherwise, if you are in a kind of a stress, if you are in a kind of a dull mood, if you are thinking something else and you are reading, එහෙමනම් පොඩක් පාවෙනවා වගේ තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ මේක. කියලා ඉවරුනාට පස්සේ දැන් මම බෝඩ් එක දිහා බලන්නේ නැහැ. මම මෙහෙම බලාගෙන කියනවා මේක ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් කම්පැනි එකක් 80% ඉන්වෙන්ටරි එකෙන් total asset එකෙන් 80% inventory count එකට යන්න බෑ government restriction නිසා. So the total inventory balance around 3000 million, and then profit for the year 820 million. So you have that picture on your head, right? So then try to do the calculation on your mind. So that's the ability you have to practice. So audit conclusion. Audit conclusion. Audit conclusion එක කතා කරනකොට මොකට මතක් වෙනවා මෙන්න මේ වගේ table එකක්. Right? Once we are talking about audit conclusion, definitely your mind going with this kind of a table. මේ ටේබල් එකට ඔළුව යනවද නැද්ද? දන්නේ නැහැ නේ. ඊයත් එකයි නැතත් එකයි. ඔළුව යන්න ඕනේ. ඒක ප්‍රැක්ටිකල් ඔඩිටින් තේරෙන්නේ එතකොට තමයි. එන්න මේ වගේ කොටු හතරකට ඔළුව යනවා. මොකද්ද මේ කොටු හතර? So this is the table, right? This is the table. You know that from auditing, we are issuing a audit report. Audit report So the audit report consists with audit opinion. Audit opinion can be, it may be audit qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer opinion. So we can issue three type of modifications, and we can issue further clean opinion, right? So what are the things we can issue? Clean opinion, audit qualifications, adverse opinion, and then disclaimer opinion. So we can issue these things, right? Other than this, to clean opinion, we can issue emphasis and meta paragraph. On the other hand, other meta paragraph. These are the opinion we can issue, right? Once we are issuing the opinion, we can consider two limitations, two issues. What are the two issues? One is misstatement. One is scope limitation. One is a misstatement, one is a scope limitation. These are the two limitations. Once we are doing the audit, we are facing issues, misstatements, matters, problems, different scenarios, right? So those will impact your opinion. So categorize is that a misstatement? Is that a scope limitation? What do you mean by scope limitation? Misstatement කියනකනම් තේරෙනවා. Misstatement එකක් තමයි inventory provision එක අඩුයි. Debtor provision එක අඩුයි. They have overstated the asset. They have understated the liability. So it's a misstatement එකක්. Inventory NRV එකයි cost එකයි බලලා adjustment එක කරලා නැහැ. It's a misstatement, right? So scope limitation කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Scope limitation. What do you mean by scope limitation? Anyone can help me? So I am not starting the revision yet. I am kind of giving a mental exercise before starting the revision, right? So starting අර මොකද්ද කියන්නේ පොතේ පහන පත්තු කරලා නේ අපි ජාතික ගීය කියලා තමයි පටන් ගන්න. එතකොට අපි ජාතික ගීය මොකද්ද? Audit conclusion. So that's the ultimate objective. That's the ultimate output of the audit. Assurance engagement. That's the audit opinion. All the quality, all the effort, all the procedures, risk assessment, targeting into this audit opinion. So all the things going around this audit opinion. It means CL1 subject going around this audit opinion. සේරම effort එක ගන්න මේක කරන්න තමයි. Chartered accountant කෙනෙක් වෙන්න මේක කරන්න audit opinion issue කරලා sign කරන්න. එහෙනම් මේක දැනගෙනම ඉන්න ඕනේ. right? හරි. එතකොට audit එක කරන්න යනකොට අපිට issues දෙකක් හම්බෙන්න පුළුවන්. මේ misstatement එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. maybe a scope limitation, right? Scope limitation එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? At the first stage of the audit, we are agreeing with the scope with the client. What's the document we are sharing with them? Engagement letter, right? We are agreeing the scope. What do you mean by scope? What is the scope? The area we are covering, right? So a scope එක limit වෙනවා නම් අපිට බලන්න බැරි නම් we don't have access to executive staff salary. We don't have access to the standard costing formula of a manufacturing company. We don't have access to the inventory at the this airport or whatever the logistic company, or with the good in transit inventory, whatever the inventory located at the supplier's place, we don't have access. If it is so, that's kind of a scope limitation. You can't process your audit procedures. Why? We don't have access. Once you are participating for inventory verification, some occasions they are telling that that area is highly, very freeze environment and you can't get access. But anyway, you have to do some alternatives. අපිට කියන්න බෑ එතන access දෙන්න නැත්නම් බලන්න බැරි නම් එහෙම කියන්න බෑ. එහෙමනම් අපි බලන්න ඕන මේක මොකද්ද misstatement එකක්ද අපිට audit එක කරගන්න බැරි වෙන දෙයක්ද කියලා. Sometimes they have purchased the land and we are requesting the land documents, purchase documents, land deed and bank statements, payment vouchers. They are telling that. So very recently we did the transaction. If it is so, we don't have that originals. You can't actually participate. You can't take these documents. It means it's a scope limitation. Why document එක බලාගෙන land එක purchase කරපු value එක 2 million but you have recorded 2.4 million. It's a misstatement. හරිද? තේරෙන්නේ නැති misstatement එකයි scope limitation එකයි කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. හරි. ඒ scope limitation එකයි misstatement එකයි material නම් ඒක අපි qualify කරනවා. material විතරක් නම් කොහොමද material කියලා බලන්න. So we are talking about materiality. What do you mean by that? අපිට materiality කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Materiality means once you are issuing the audit opinion, so this balance may be impact to the financial statement users' decisions. Financial statement users taking decision because of this audited accounts. So we are issuing audited accounts with the audit report. It's a kind of a jewelry. It's kind of a ring. It's kind of a value addition to the audit opinion, the audit financial statement. So all the people are taking decision from audited financial statement, not from the unaudited financial statement. So if it is so, materiality means whatever the amounts, whatever the figures which impact to their decisions, material figures. So if it is material, only material we have to qualify. Qualify means, so we are giving opinion with a qualification, except opinion. We are telling that. So you can see some opinion, right? In the auditing standards also we have draft opinion templates, right? You can go through those. So once you are reading through qualified audit opinion, you can definitely see this word except. So we are giving true and fair view except for the basis of qualification mentioned in the qualification para, right? So except for the inventory valuation, except for the land revaluation, except for the debtor impairment, except for the revenue recognition. Likewise, we can issue qualified opinion. We have two scenarios. Misstatement, if it is significant, qualified opinion. Scope limitation, if it is significant, qualified opinion. So then examiner can ask, what are the two scenarios you can issue qualified audit opinion? So these are the two scenarios. එහෙම අහනවාද අපේ examiner? නෑ, එහෙම කවදාවත් අහන්නේ නෑ. What are the two scenarios? එහෙම අහන්නේ නෑ කවදාවත්. Examiner අහන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. You are the audit manager of the ANC associate. You have a senior in charge. These are the suggestions he has done. He has communicated you. So as auditor, we can issue qualified opinion in two scenarios. So can you agree with him? So that is the strategy the examiner tempted to use, right? So think of that. And then that misstatement can be significant and pervasive. What do you mean by pervasive? That misstatement can be material and pervasive. What do you mean by pervasive? Pervasive means it may be impact to the overall financial statement, not only for the one figure, not only for the one balance, not only for the inventory balance. It will impact to revenue, inventory, and receivable, and PP&E, all the areas. It means it's pervasive. All the areas will be impacted. So from the balance sheet, it will impact to the majority, high percentage, more than 50. It's judgmental. You can decide, right? So if a misstatement will impact to the overall financial statement, it means material plus pervasive, we are giving adverse opinion. If it is a scope limitation, අපිට access කරන්න බැරිද material plus pervasive නම් අපිට බලන්න වෙන්න බැරිද balance sheet එකෙන් ලොකු ප්‍රමාණයක් නම් එහෙමනම් අපි issue කරන්නේ මොන opinion එකක්ද disclaimer opinion එකක්. It means we are telling that we can't issue audit opinion. It means disclaimer. We are disclaiming that we are issuing opinion. We are telling that because of this scope limitation, we disclaim this audit. Right? So here what the opinion? Adverse opinion. So we know the fact. This is wrong. Right? If it is so, we can say that this financial statement don't give true and fair view. We can directly say, here we don't know. That's why we are disclaiming that. We don't know whether it is correct or not. Right? තේරුණාද තෙරියාද right. So then we'll go to the paper. Sorry. So what's the opinion we can give? It should be disclaimer opinion. Why? So here inventory balance 80%. It means the profit is 820. Inventory total balance 3,152. So it represent the majority, 80% of total assets, right? So the 80% of total assets you can't verify. So what is the issue here? Is that a misstatement? No. It is not a misstatement. What is that? What's the key word here? Have not been able to obtain sufficient evidence. Have not been able. Have not been able is the critical word in this multiple choice question. So that is scope limitation. So then it represents 80%, leading to give a disclaimer opinion, not audit qualification, right? So the correct answer is disclaimer opinion, right? So then we'll discuss another MCQ question and we'll go to the revision. So this is a MCQ paper I prepared, right? So yesterday I discussed this paper with my students. So this is the paper I prepared. I prefer to do, what's the question? This one is good. So try to do this. Let's try to do this. Which of the following statements relating to different types of assurance engagement is correct? An auditor provides reasonable assurance for review engagement. Is that correct? Auditor provides reasonable assurance for review engagement. It's basic, no? Review engagement, we are giving limited assurance, not reasonable assurance. අපි review එකෙන් දෙන්නේ negative opinion එක. Nothing has come to our mind කියලා දෙන්නේ. True and fair view එකක් දෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට පළවෙනි එක වැරදි, right? So the second one, the auditor's risk for the limited assurance engagement is lower than reasonable assurance engagement. The auditor's risk for limited assurance engagement is lower than reasonable assurance engagement. Auditor के risk එක limited assurance engagement එකකට වඩා the auditor's risk for the limited assurance engagement is lower than reasonable assurance engagement. That is correct. Why? Limited assurance engagement එකක දෙන opinion එක risk එක අඩුයි than reasonable assurance. කොහොමද අපි ඒක තේරුම් ගන්න? How you can understand that? You are telling something, some third party, you are telling this way. I think that may be the reason. I don't know actually. That may be the reason. ඊට පස්සේ කියනවා නෑ ඒකම තමයි හේතුව කියලාත් කියනවා. ඒතකොට ඔයාගේ risk එක වැඩිම මොකද? අර ඒකම තමයි කියපු එක. කියන්නේ high weightage එකක් දීපු එක. එහෙනම් reasonable assurance එකට වඩා limited assurance එක risk එක අඩුයි, right? So third one, the difference between reasonable and limited assurance engagement is from which of the opinion is expressed. The difference between reasonable and limited assurance engagement is the form in which the opinion is expressed. Opinion එක මොන වගේද කියන එක අනුව තමයි reasonable assurance එකක් කුයි limited assurance එකකුයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නෑ එහෙම නෙවෙයි. opinion එක දෙන විදියනොත් වෙනස් වෙනවා කරන procedure අඩුයි risk එකත් අඩුයි හැමදේම වෙනස් ඒ දෙකේ. ඒකෙන් විතරක් නෙමෙයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ. ඒතකොට ඒකත් වැරදි. So for this reasonable assurance, to give a reasonable assurance, we have to do extensive audit procedures. Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence should be collected. But for limited assurance, to review engagement, we have to do only minimal audit procedures, analytical procedures and inquiries. Just that's it. ARP and inquiries. You can complete the review. So procedures also may be changed, right? The evidence gathering procedures are less extensive from reasonable assurance engagement when compared with the limited assurance engagement. Evidence gathering procedures are less extensive for reasonable assurance engagement when compared with the limited assurance engagement. That is wrong. So the evidence gathering procedures are less extensive for a reasonable assurance engagement. Reasonable assurance engagement, very extensive procedures we have to do, not less extensive. This is the word we need to decide, right? So then what's the different type of assurance engagement? Which of the following statement related to the is correct? Correct statement. What's that? Only this one is the correct answer. Right? So if it is so, answer is C. Only 2. Only 2. Right? හරි. දැන් මට ඕන උනේ exam එකේ feeling එක දෙන්න. Start එක ගන්න. Don't worry about the answer and the knowledge you have. Don't try to compare your status with this situation, right? So you have to understand the gravity, knowledge you require to give an answer, right? So we'll start the revision now. So can you see my screen? So anyone can help me? කටිය කතා කරන්න අහන්න ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න මේව කරන්න නැත්නම් තේරුමක් නැහැ. ඇහෙනවද ස්ක්‍රීන් එක පේනවද කියලා කියන්නේ that's it. දීපත් am I audible? මටත් දැන් ඩවුට් එකක් එනවා මම ඇහෙනවද පේනවද කියලා. So Manisha, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. කට්ටිය කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. Right, you can see the syllabus. I think you can see the screen, right? You can refer the syllabus. So it consists with 8 parts, right? 8 parts. So first one, governance and internal control framework. Audit planning and risk assessment, gathering audit evidences, auditing digital environment, evaluating evidence and audit reporting, assurance and related services, audit quality and ethics, professional practice of internal audit. So these are the areas we need to complete, right? These are the areas we need to complete. So the third one, gathering audit evidences, covering 20%. So that's the core area, core business, right? So you have to make a weightage, high weightage for 20%, gathering audit evidences. Actually, we discussed that part around 1 month during our class. But between short time, you can understand and you can grab the content, right? So auditing is really easy subject. So this is the roadmap. It's all about a process. Planning, execution and conclusion, right? So whatever the above topics can be related to this process. Only internal audit, part H. Part H is a kind of a separate topic. We have to learn separately. Other than that, auditing. So other than that, other areas are all about auditing. Right? Part A, Part B relevant to planning and risk assessment. Part C always talks about execution. Part E, conclusion. How about Part D, F and G? Part D, F and G, what are those? Part D, F and G. Part D, auditing digital environment. B, F, assurance and related services. And G, audit quality and ethics. Part Part D, F and G. D, F and G are relates to all the audit pillars. It's planning, execution and conclusion. ඒ තුනටම බලපානවා DFG. මොනවද DFG කියන්නේ? Auditing digital environment. Digital audits. අපි Uber එක audit කරනවා නම්, Pickme එක audit කරනවා නම්, Amazon, Alibaba and then eBay ඒ වගේ audit කරනවා නම් virtual office, IOEL virtual class එක අපි audit කරනවා නම් So what are the audit procedures? How we can change our audit procedures? Do we need to focus about IT environment further? These are the areas need to be focused, right? So then it will impact to all the areas, right? And then if assurance related services, assurance and related services, whatever the other assurance and related services, it will talk about all the other assurance engagement. We are talking planning, execution, and conclusion of other assurance engagement. It is also relevant for all three pillars, right? And then G, audit quality and ethics. Audit quality and ethics. Audit quality and ethics. Always we have to maintain audit quality. Audit quality depends on your ethics, your independence, your procedures, your risk assessment, your competence, your experience, your dedication, right? Audit quality. Audit quality and ethics. Always, as a chartered accountant, you have to be ethical. You have to save your principles of ethics, right? If you are facing some threat to save your independence, definitely you have to take what? Safeguards. You have to initiate a safeguard to reduce that threat to the acceptable low level, right? So it means all the syllabus talks about audit roadmap, audit process, right? If you can learn audit process, definitely easily you can understand process that subject areas and you can easily face to the exam. Today, after this revision, try to understand audit process. How we can start audit? Why we are doing audit? What are the elements of audit? Is that a tri-party agreement? What are the things we need to do audit to complete? So those things need to be gathered, right? Right. So this is the subject you are doing. කරන subject එක ගැන දන්නවද? Assurance and advanced auditing. Assurance and advanced auditing. මොකක්ද ඒකේ meaning එක? Assurance and advanced auditing. Assurance advanced auditing කියන්නේ is part of assurance. Assurance is a vast concept, big concept. Advanced auditing is a part of that. That is the major part of that. So advanced auditing, we are talking about, so normally this Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, Jassing and Company, all the companies are giving assurance services. But අපි කියන්නේ කොහොමද? Audit firm කියලා. ඇයි ඒකට reason එක? They are giving audit services significantly. The major part is the audit services. So from assurance engagement, advanced auditing is the key part. So that's why we took it out and we are telling that assurance plus advanced auditing. Advanced auditing is also assurance. හරිද? ඒකත් හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. So with that thought, තමන් ඉගෙන ගන්න subject එක හොඳට දැනගන්න ඉන්න. මොකක්ද ඒක වචනේ තේරුම? ඇයි මොකද එහෙම කියන්නේ කියනවා. Right? So assurance engagement. Assurance engagements can be divided into reasonable assurance and limited assurance. Reasonable assurance and limited assurance. What the reasonable assurance can? What the limited assurance can? අපි audit එකක හරි assurance එකක් හරි දෙනකොට opinion එකේ level එක opinion එක කොච්චර strongද කියන එක මත audit engagement අපිට categorize කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? So it may be reasonable assurance, it may be limited assurance. Reasonable assurance එකක් කියන්නේ high level assurance එකක්. කියන්නේ true and fair view එකක්. කියන්නේ අපි ගොඩක් audit procedures කරලා ගොඩක් audit procedures කරලා after doing extensive audit procedures we can give reasonable assurance. After doing less number of procedures we can issue limited assurance, right? So can you issue an absolute opinion? Can you issue a certificate type opinion? Can't. Why? What's the reason? We are doing risk-based auditing. We have limitations. We are taking evidence not 100%. We are doing things. We are doing audit. We are collecting evidence based on samples, right? So there may be sample gaps. So we can't issue audit certificate. We can't issue absolute opinion, right? We can't issue absolute opinion. අපිට කියන්න බෑ මේක හරිම කියලා. අපි දෙන්නේ opinion එක. right? ඒක මතක තියාගන්න. එතකොට පෙන්නන්නම්. So if you are collecting, if you are checking 100%, you can issue a certificate. It is not audit actually, right? If you are doing kind of audit, you can issue a reasonable assurance, right? This is the area you are in. This is the area you are in. Right? So you can't go beyond this. You can't reach to the 100% certificate level, right? So keep in mind that in audit, we are issuing reasonable assurance. And in a review engagement, we are taking limited assurance, right? So the reasonable assurance, it may be statutory audit, it may be special purpose audit, right? Limited assurance, it may be review engagement, prospective financial statements audit. What do you mean by prospective financial statement audit? What's the meaning? What කියන්න බලන්න audience එකෙන් prospective financial statement audit එක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා? Any idea? දැන් මමම කතා කරන එක නෙමෙයි වැදගත්කම, you have to talk. Otherwise it's not a deal, it's not a transaction. Samantha, La or Samantha. Can you give me an answer? Prospective financial statement audit එක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Shani? Amila? Nick? Deepath? Champika? කවුරු හරි කියන්න බලන්න. Prospective financial statement audit එක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? අහලා තියෙනවද? දන්නේ නැද්ද? දන්නේ නැත්නම් දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ අහලා නැහැ කියන්නේ. මට දැන් ඩවුට් එකක් එනවා මේ ක්ලාස් එකේදී ඉන්නේ ෆෝන් එකේ ලොග් වෙලා නිකන් පැත්තකින් ඉඳලා නිකන් ඉන්නවද? කොහොමද ඒක මම කන්ෆර්ම් කරගන්නේ? Can you all send me a message or thumbs up or smile face or raise hand button or can you send me that? Otherwise I can't see. Yeah, Nick, you are there. Champika, are you there? Deepa? Yeah, Samanthala there. So Deepa there, right? ඒක පොඩ සතුටක් නේ කරන් යන්න නේද? Otherwise it's not Champika also there, right? Okay. So Shani, Amila, I think you are not there, right? Amila also there, right? Ishani? Ushani, I don't think she's not there. So the data පොඩි donation එකක් කරන්න join වෙලාද දන්නේ නැහැ. සමහර විට මෙහෙම මොකද්ද? raise hand button එක click කරගන්න දන්නේ නැද්ද දන්නේ නැහැ. නේ? වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. එතකොට so then assurance engagement. What do you mean by assurance engagement? It's a tri-party agreement, tri-party relationship. A subject matter is there, suitable criteria is there, evidences and written assurance report. When මේ set එක තියෙනවා නම් we are telling that is assurance engagement. අපිට assurance එකක් ඕන වෙන්නේ. Assurance engagement එකක් ඕන වෙන්නේ ඇයි? At which situation you need assurance? At which situation you are required to get assurance? අපිට doubt එකක් තියෙනවා නම් මොන හරි third party එකක් ගැන දෙයක් දැනගන්න ඕන නම් confirm කරගන්න ඕන නම් we need the assurance. ඔයාලා මේ marry කරන්න යනකොට assurance ගන්නවා. දැන් ගෑනු ළමයි පිරිමි ළමයි හොයා ගන්නකොට assurance ගන්නවා. නේද? හොයලා බලනවා හොඳයිද මේ ළමයා හොඳයිද? මොන කට්ටියකින් අහලා බලනවා හොඳ ළමයෙක් මුණම් මේ ලෝක අපතේ මුණම් කරගන්න එපා කියලා කියනවා. ඒ තව ඇෂුරන්ස් එකක් ගන්නවා third party. අපිට බලලා ටෙස්ට් කරලා කරනට වඩා third party එකකින් confirmation එකක් ගන්න එක මාර හොඳයි නේ. ඒක තමයි assurance එකක් කියන්නේ. එතකොට මේක මේ casual, it's kind of a gossip, you know, social media මේවා use කරලා අපිට audit opinion ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? අපි call කරලා අහනවද මේ hello, so you are in this company, you are an employee in this company, can you give me a kind of a comfort about your financial statement? Are you doing that way? No, we are not doing that way. What we have to do, if you are the shareholders, if you are the bank, if you are the tax authority, so then you need audit report to get comfort about the customer, right? And එතකොට තමයි අපිට assurance එකක් ඕන වෙන්නේ. assurance එකක් ඕන වෙන්නේ some party එකක් ගැන අපිට යම් දෙයක් ගැන opinion එකක් ගන්න ඕන වෙනවා. ඒ හදපු කෙනාගෙන්ම ගන්න එක හරියද? Give me a minute. (24/7) getting mails, right? So if it is a critical mail, need to see. Right. So that's the professional life we have to be in, right? So whatever the situation, whatever the critical situation, if it is a matter, we have to involve with. So that's a critical mail. That's what I went over there and see, right? So that's the habit, professional behavior you have to, you know, practice as a chartered accountant. As a chartered accountant, as a professional accountant, you have to be alert with your organization, right? So whatever the situation, so we don't have excuses. මට කියන්න බෑ මල ගෙදරක් වෙලා මම ක්ලාස් එක කරනවා මට ක්ලාස් එකක් තිබුණා එහෙම කියන්න බෑ. Once you are doing a job, once you are being an accountant, once you are doing a job, you have to think that that's your company, that's my company. So then only you can do the service, correct service, right? So likewise, think about your exam. This is my exam. I have to do this. I have to start this. So today onwards, I can start from revision. So let's do this, right? Okay. Right. So this is the area we were talking about. If it is assurance engagement, we have 5 elements. 5 elements. It should be a tri-party agreement. There should be a subject matter. and suitable criteria, evidences, and written assurance report. So, statutory audit එකක් නම්, statutory audit එකක් නම්, who are the tri-parties? Auditor and the management and the public. Right? What's the subject matter? It's the financial statements. Year-end financial statements, right? Suitable criteria. Suitable criteria. What's the suitable criteria? Accounting standards, right? So what is the basis used to prepare the subject matter? That's a suitable criteria. And then audit evidences. To get the comfort about that subject matter, we have to gather evidences. And then we are issuing the audit report. That is an overall composition of a audit. Right? Something else. What examiner denama kind of a hotel operation, hotel manufacturing company. Because of COVID-19, you know that they are suffering with, they are continuous facing losses and they are passing a very bad time, right? Hotel operation, travel agents, so very hard time, right? So you know that they once they are building their premises and they are starting their businesses, definitely they have taken some loans, borrowings and all, right? So nowadays, what they are doing is they are taking some comfort from there. So they are struggling to service the loan. So once they are getting the loan, they have some covenants, right? Financial covenants. Financial covenants need to be tested from company because they are suffering, they are going with continuous losses. Definitely this financial governance may be impacted, right? So what you are doing is ABC Bank asking a covenant certificate from the company with the assurance opinion from auditors, right? So then, is that an assurance engagement? Is that a limited assurance engagement? Or non-assurance engagement? Yes, it is an assurance engagement. Why? There are tri-party agreement. Tri-party agreement, one party wants a certificate. It's not certificate, assurance, right? So who is the party requires that? Who the party requires the assurance? Bank, right? So bank wants this assurance about financial governance of the company from auditors. So then what are the tri-party? Auditors, bank, and so then bank, auditor, and then company. So what's the subject matter? Governance report, governance calculation report. Suitable criteria. So the governance should be calculated based on the instruction given in the agreement, loan agreement. So then the suitable criteria is the loan agreement, the instruction given to calculate the governance ratios. So that's the suitable criteria. And then evidences. We have to collect evidences. We have to check audited accounts. We have to verify the audited accounts to calculate these ratios, right? So finally, we are issuing an audit report to the governance report. So once we are addressing the audit report, we are telling them, according to our audit procedures, it's according to the loan agreement, the stated governance, the financial ratios are given true and fair view. We are giving a true and fair view on the financial governance reported in the report according to the guideline given in the loan agreement. That's the way we are drafting the assurance report, right? So then understand that if it is assurance report, these are the elements. Search, crest, crest should be there. C-R-E-S-T, crest. C-R-E-S-T. So if it is audit opinion, if you are issuing audit opinion, what are the elements? So you can go through after doing this, after accumulating these elements. So the final output of a audit is what? Audit opinion. It consists with opinion, basis for the opinion, key audit matters. If it is a listed company, key audit matters, other information, and management responsibility, auditor's responsibility, laws and regulation paragraph, partners details, and signature and the date. Right? Do you want to see audit opinion? No need, time wasting. But a time කන්න ඕන නම් මට සෙක් එකට ගිහිල්ලා මම ක්ලාස් එකේදී කරනවා. ඒකට අපි ෆ්‍රීලි කරගෙන යනවා. සෙක් එකට ගිහිල්ලා ඔඩිට් ඔපිනියන් බලලා ඒවා ඇනලයිස් කරලා ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරනවා. දැන් අද මට ටයිම් නැති නිසා මම ඔපිනියන් එකක් ඕපන් කරන්න මේව කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයාලට පුළුවන් කොළඹ ස්ටොක් එක්ස්චේන්ජ් එකට ගිහිල්ලා ඕන තරම් ඔඩිට් ඔපිනියන් එකක් බලා ගන්න. මේ එලිමන්ට්ස් ටික තියෙනවද කියලා බලන්න පුළුවන්. right? Now audit එකක් assurance engagement ඇතුලේ තියෙන එක එලිමන්ට් එකක් තමයි reasonable assurance ඇතුලේ තියෙන එකක් තමයි statutory audit කියන්නේ. right? Statutory audit කියන්නේ reasonable assurance යටතේ තියෙන main element එකක්. main element එකක්. right? main element එකක්. So statutory audit එකක මොනවද තියෙන parts? statutory audit එකක හැදෙන්නේ process එකකින්. First one, planning and risk assessment. Right? Second one, execution. Third one, conclusion. These are the stages of an audit. Planning and risk assessment, execution, and conclusion. What I made part 2 න ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් audit paper එකට ලකුණු 50 ගන්න එක ගේමක් නැහැ. Whatever the learning outcomes, whatever the past paper questions, whatever the theories, you have to have ability to link with this process. Otherwise it's kind of a ටිකක් පිස්සුවෙන් වගේ ඔඩිට් කරන්න බෑ. ඔඩිට් පේපර් එක යනකොට ඔයාලට හොඳ knowledge එකක් තියෙන්න ඕන හැම ඒරියා එකකම. conclusion එකද, planning ද, risk assessment ද හැමදේම ඔයාලට map වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕන ඔළුවට. හරිද? So the planning and risk assessment part එක overall understanding එකක් තියෙනවා. Execution overall understanding එකක් තියෙනවා. Conclusion practical understanding එකක් තියෙනවා. Right? Otherwise you can't. Conclusion පාඩම වෙනම බලලා, execution පාඩම වෙනම බලලා, planning පාඩම වෙනම බලලා, planning execution conclusion අතුලේ link එකක් ඔයා හදාගෙන නැත්නම් ඔයාට audit paper එක කරන්න බෑ. මොකද execution should be performed according to the planning and risk assessment. Conclusion should be given according to the results taken from the execution. Right? Ultimately, conclusion depend on the planning and risk assessment. So it's one process, it's one chapter, it's one lesson. Auditing is a one lesson. So don't try to split this to part and lessons and chapters. One shot ඔයාට ඉගෙනගෙන ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ. හරිද? හරි. එහෙමනම් අපි audit process එක කොහොමද වෙන්නේ? මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා චුට්ටක් ඉගෙන ගන්න. Right? So audit process. So I have written here. This is my whiteboard, right? So this is the financial statement. this is statutory audit. 5 elements are there. So as we discussed, this is the audit report we are going to give. Audit report, right? So after issuing the audit report, this is financial statement, including audit report, audited financial statement. Audited financial statement, right? So then, to give the audited financial statement, what we have to do? What we have to do? We have to perform the audit. We have to perform the audit. You have to perform the audit. Once you are performing the audit, what are the elements you are talking about? What are the elements you are going to test? Account balances and disclosures, plus transactions. So those are the areas you have to test. As auditor, you should concentrate about account balances, transactions and disclosures. Account balances, transactions and disclosures. But transactions are not in the financial statements. No? Why you are worrying about transactions? A transaction ගැන worry වෙන්නේ. Transaction බලන්න ඕනේ නෑනේ අපිට ඔඩිට් financial statement ගත්තට පස්සේ financial statement හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද? Account balances and disclosures. වචන වලින් කිව්වොත් මොකද්ද? අකුරු ඉලක්කන වචන ඉලක්කන වලින් හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ. මම මෙහෙම කතා කරගෙන යනකොට ළමයි කිව්වා නෑ පේපර් එකකුත් තියෙනවා කියලා ඒකේ. පේපර් එකේනේ වචන ඉලක්කන මේව කරන්නේ. එහෙම. ඔව් හරි කියලා මම කිව්වා. So, account balances and disclosures consist of the financial statement. A transaction බලන්නේ අපි. Transaction flow එකක් බලන්නේ. මොකටද? බලන්න ඕනද ඇත්තටම? Auditor කෙනෙක්. ඔව් බලන්න ඕන transactions. Otherwise, we can't give the blind opinion to the financial statement. අපේ opening balance එකක ඉඳලා year end එකේ financial statements හැදෙන්නේ because of millions of transactions, right? So without having understanding about these transactions, you can't give audit report. So as a result of that, you have to be alert. You have to have a super knowledge about the transactions, transaction flow, transaction initiation, recording, and processing and recording process. So the transactions, once you are dealing with transactions, you can learn control process, and then TOC, walkthroughs, right? All the things you can understand through transactions. So, අපි audit කරනවා යටි තුනක් මොනවද? Account balances, disclosures and transactions. So transactions බලන්නේ අපි control test කරන areas වලදී. හරිද? Right. So then, once you are doing your audit, firstly, what's the first area? What is the first area? Planning and risk assessment, right? Planning and risk assessment. So we can take the draft financial statement first, right? So this is the draft financial statement. Draft financial statement. Draft financial statement, right? So then, what we have to do? You have the draft financial statement. So then you can calculate material levels, right? Material levels. And then you can select significant accounts and disclosures. You have to identify what are the significant accounts and disclosures. What are may audit? Significant accounts and disclosures, not only significant accounts, right? Significant accounts and disclosures. select කරගන්න. ඔයා හැම accounts and disclosure එකක්ම බලන්න ඕනද? මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා. Audit එකකදී අපි once you are doing audit, we have to concentrate about account balances, disclosures and transactions, right? So we have to worry about these three. So there's a question. Do we need to worry about all the account balances, all the disclosures, all the transactions? No. We have to worry about only significant accounts and significant disclosures. Significant classes of transactions, only significant classes. Non-significant classes, we don't want to worry, right? So then, before that, these things should be done. So the independence should be tested. Before you are taking an audit engagement as auditor, what you have to do? You have to evaluate your independence, right? Whether this is a friend or so we are getting profit share. So the ownership percentage is there. So if it is so, we don't have kind of a independence. So before you are taking audit engagement, we have to evaluate the independence. Otherwise, our objective integrity may be damaged, challenged, right? So the firstly, we have to check the independence. So after satisfying the independence, what you have to do? You have to perform procedures to identify and understand the business. What are the procedures you have to follow to understand the business? What a business එක ගැන understand කරගන්න කොහොමද? ගිහිල්ලා බලලා පුළුවන් නේද? And then what we can do? අපිට ගිහිල්ලා බලලා පුළුවන් බිස්නස් එක අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගන්න. වෙබ්සයිට් එක බලලා පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ මැනේජ්මන්ට් එකත් එක්ක ඩිස්කෂන් එකක් තියලා පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ අපිට if we are having kind of a magazine and newspapers, we can talk to the regulator, and likewise we can take the information about the company, right? If it is a listed company, definitely so we can take these annual reports. So they are of public available information. So we can easily get information from them, right? So these are the steps. So the examiner can be tested this area. What are the steps? What are the procedures you are following to take information about the company? So they are using kind of a different language, right? So he's not asking about what are the procedures we have to perform to get the understanding of the business. He's not using that. He's telling that, so you are the new audit manager to the ABC company. So you are supposed to take the initial information about the company. What are the specific procedures you have to follow to take information about the entity? So then different language, different approach. So once you are doing answers, so please make sure to customize your answer to the question. අපේ කට්ටිය කොහොමද කරන්නේ? දන්න තරම් දේවල් බොරු ඒවා මේවා උත්තරේට දානවා. තේරුමක් නැහැ. ඒක නිසා make sure to give relevant answers, right? Okay. So then take initial set of financials. So then after getting the understanding, you have that the basic products, the company environment, legal background, and then systems they are using, regulators view, and everything you know, right? So then you can start audit and you can understand whatever the controls the company having, right? So you have to have understanding about the company control environment, entity level controls. What are the controls company having? So why companies having controls? What's the meaning? I අපිට control අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ company වලට. To address the business risk. Auditor face කරන්න නෙමෙයි control ඕන. Business risk එකට face කරන්න. මොකද්ද business risk කියන්නේ? Achieving objectives and goals of the company. Enhancing the wealth of the owners. ඒකට ඒකට competition එකක් තියෙනවා. ලොකු demand එකක් නෑ අපිට. market competition එක වැඩි. ඒකට advertise කරන්න ඕන. ඒවත් එක්ක එන business risk එකට face කරන්න තමයි controls implement කරන්න company එක. Right? ඒකට control environment එක ගැන දැනගන්න ඕන. ඊපස්සේ company එකේ fraud history එකක් තියෙනවද? fraud නැති වෙන්න මොනවද තියෙන strategies? Complaint handling process එකක් තියෙනවද? whistleblowing policy එකක් තියෙනවද? ඒ වගේ fraud procedures, fraudulent activities වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා you have to test that, right? So after having that knowledge, you have that draft financial statement. What you can do is you can select a materiality basis. So you don't want to use always the profitability, always the expenses, always the total assets. You can decide what's the basis of materiality. So then it should be more relevant to the entity, size of the entity. So my advice is once you are doing audit, don't purely depend on your monetary value of the material level, but you have to think about the qualitative aspects of the balances, amounts, right? So always think about that. So then I will give a break. I plan to give the break 8:30. So now 8:40. So I plan to give a 30 minutes break because you have to take your dinner and you can come back. So I will give 20 minutes break, right? If you can have a coffee or tea, you can have that. So after the class, you can have your dinner. So if you want to get hurry the dinner, so take that immediately and come. So I'll give 40 minutes break. Not 40 minutes, 20 minutes break. We'll meet up at 9 o'clock. So we are at the planning stage of audit, right? So we know that understand the business and entity level control. So now we are trying to start audit, right? So we had a foundation now. So what's the subject? Advanced auditing and assurance, and advanced auditing and assurance. Advanced auditing is a part of assurance, right? Then assurance engagement can be divided into two: high-level assurance, low-level assurance, and then advanced auditing can be divided into separate areas. So the special audit engagement, the general public, general purpose audit engagement, right? So then, once we are doing audit, we have 3 steps: planning, execution, and conclusion. So then, once you are starting audit, you have to comply with audit independence. So that is a critical area. So then you have to understand the business. So what we can do to understand the business. So then later we need to know the entity level controls, and then fraud environment of the company. So those things need to be understood, and then you can calculate the materiality levels. So before you are calculating materiality level, you can decide the basis of the material level. It may be profit, it may be equity, it may be assets. So purely we have to select that basis. So the root cause, the foundation is the expectation and perspective of financial statement users. Right? So why they are continuing the business? If that a profit making business, it's a profit oriented business. Profit after tax may be a profit after tax may be the planning base, materiality basis. So it depends, your judgment, right? It should be more relevant to your business. So that is the basis understanding. So the examiner can ask, once you are deciding the material level basis, what are the things you need to be considered? So kind of a different language, but think about what's the requirement from the examiner. So then you answer properly, right? So with that thought, we'll wind up, not winding up. So we'll stop for a while. So I'll go on mute. I will back within 20 minutes. So have your dinner or any refreshment. Come back within 20 minutes. So we'll meet up 9 o'clock. I'll go on mute. Thanks. Shall we start? So it's 8:58, no? So we can start 9. So I'm planning to, so it's boring to always discuss the theoretical aspects. I know, like I started with the questions. So the latter part of the session, we'll start with a question from ACCA paper, right? So here we have latest 19. This is ACCA paper 2019 March, right? 2019 March paper. So don't panic and don't get confused and stressful to read through this ACCA like global papers. The language and the content of the paper is in a very advanced level, right? So standard questions are there. So the language also really good, and the questions also very practical, and uh, they're asking the very core areas of the syllabus. So I really like that way, the questions and the content of the paper. So in our case, there may be questions from very remote areas, right? You know, this these some occasion I'm thinking that why we are asking this question from our case, but ACCA, all the questions are really common. The very timely, appropriate questions they are asking, right? So see, third question. The IASB has published the exposure draft proposed IAS 540 revised accounting estimate and related disclosures, stating the objective of ED 540 is for the auditor to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to evaluate whether accounting estimates and related disclosures are reasonable in the context of the applicable financial reporting framework or are misstated. The 540 includes enhanced requirement for risk assessment procedure and auditors' work effort in responding to assess risk of material misstatement to support this evaluation. Right? Required. Can you see the screen? Do I need to zoom in? කවුද 9120 කියන්නේ? කවුද දන්නෙත් නැහැ. කමක් නැහැ. So the question, explain why accounting estimates are considered to be source of high audit risk and discuss the reason for the development of ED 540 commencing on its proposal for the enhanced risk assessment in relation to the audit of accounting estimate. So the question include many parts. You have to consider that. Explain why accounting estimates are considered to be source of high audit risk. So that is one part. We need to explain that. That's the first question. And discuss. So another command. Discuss the reason for the development of ED 540 commencing on its proposal of enhance the risk assessment in relation to the auditing estimates. We need to discuss the ED 540 estimate standards. ඒක අනුව enhance risk assessment in relation to the audit of accounting estimate. ඒකට reason එක include කරන්න ඇයි කියලා අපි discuss කරන්න. High risk එකක් වෙන්නේ ඇයි? So then on the other hand, why we include estimates as a high risk area for the risk assessment. Right? So they are supposed to give a proposal, right? They are supposed to give a proposal. So then we have to explain why accounting estimates are considered a high risk area, and then so reason for getting the estimate for the proposal. Why actually? Estimates are highly judgmental. So estimates are not factual actually, right? So they are doing, the people who are doing provisions, impairment calculations, goodwill impairment, that PP&E valuation, IP valuation, biological asset valuation, whatever the valuation, whatever the estimates. So highly judgment, professional assumptions are involved with. So then the people to people, the auditors to auditors, the management team to team. So this estimate values may be different, right? So then management can play around figures based on these estimates. So that's why we consider that as high risky area, because of manual involvement, judgments, and assumptions used. So it may be very sensitive with the financial figures. That is the answer for the why question, right? Why question. So then second question, discuss the reason for the development of commencing on his proposal for an enhanced risk assessment in relation to the auditing accounting estimate. So then ISB has published a draft, exposure draft, right? So then you need to evaluate that content and you need to discuss about accounting estimates. So it talks about auditor should be evaluate that process, and then should be do back testing on these estimates, and these these inputs used for the estimate should be tested. And firstly auditor should identify the estimate process. Estimate process should be identified, and we need to understand the controls and then tested the controls, and then only you have to do substantive procedures. Whatever the estimates, whatever the risk level, you have to identify the estimate process, right? එමනවා estimate relate answer එකක් ලියනම නම් initially මොවා කියන්න ඕන? Auditor has to recognize the estimate process. He has to learn, he has to know what is the process they have to use for the estimates. ඒකදී අපි මොකද්ද බලන්නේ? ඇයි එහෙම බලන්න ඕන? estimates මොනවද use කරන්නේ? ඒවා risk level එක මොකක්ද? කවුද මේ estimates කරන්නේ? It's really important. Why? The if the company using junior level staff to do the estimates, it's utter waste, you know. So then to do estimates, definitely the expert knowledge, experience is a vital role. So definitely has to use the experienced people, executive people to the estimate process. So as auditor, we have to know about that people. Who are the people who doing the estimates? Who are the people taking inputs? So that is the case. How they use the external expert knowledge. So to do a property valuation, so definitely we are getting support from external valuer. So the normally we are not keeping valuers in the company, but to do a NRV testing, so inventory valuation, we are using the management team because it's not that much complex, right? For the depreciation calculation, so the to do the depreciation, we have to use the in-house people. But the deciding useful lifetime, the residual value is a bit complex. To that, we are using valuers, right? So likewise, you have to know the process of the estimates. So that's how you have to respond. So this estimate and the SLA US 540 standard is a really important standards to the exam, right? Estimate හැමදාම අහනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ estimate ගැන තමයි අපි ගොඩාක් ඔඩිට් වල key audit matter එක වෙන්නේ. හරිද? ඒක නිසා estimate standard එක හොඳට කියවන්න plan කරගන්න. Right? So then we have different scenarios. Cash settled share based payment scheme, regulatory penalties, property development. So we have three scenarios, and then here we have the question. Before you are reading the scenarios, you have to read the question, the requirement. So then what you are doing is, you know the requirement. Once you are reading the case study, you have to you can map that the requirement and the case study, right? So firstly, what you have to do is you have to read the question first, right? So evaluate the client's accounting treatment and the difficulties which you might encounter when auditing each of the accounting estimates described above. Evaluate client's accounting treatments and the difficulties which you might encounter when auditing each of accounting estimates described above. So this is the language. See, accounting treatment, the difficulties which you might encounter. The difficulties which you might encounter. ඒ මොකක්ද අහන්නේ? What are the risks you identified කියන එක. බලන්න language එකනේ. මොනවද challenges you are මේ estimate එක බලන්නකොට මේ accounting treatment එක බලද්දි වාට එන්නේ. මොනවද decide කරගන්න බැරි. මොනවද estimate මේක use කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක තමයි අහන්නේ, right? Accounting treatment එකත් evaluate කරන්න. So then you have to know the share based payment. You have to know the cash settled share based payment. So what are the two methods? Cash settled share based payment, equity settled share based payment, right? So likewise, you have to know the treatment. So then second one, design audit procedures which should now be performed to gather sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Design audit procedures which should now be performed. දැන් ඔයාලට අතන risk areas ටික කියලා දැන් audit procedures කියන්න ඕන අර risk areas ටික address කරන්න. ඒක තමයි දෙක second answer එක. එතකොට areas තුනටම කියන්න ඕන. 25 marks. හොඳට paper එක attempt කරන්න නම් හොඳට study කරලා clearly you have to give the correct answers, right? මම detail describe කරන්න යන්නේ. ඔයාලට මට ඕන වෙන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට ACCA වුණත් papers කරන්න පුළුවන්. කරන්න ඕන නැහැ. හරිද? අපිට attempt කරන්න පුළුවන්. confidence හදා ගන්න පුළුවන් කරලා. Right? So so that you can have that ability So go through the questions and then try to do answers. Hurry. So we're back to our lesson. So we are at the initial stage of audit, right? So then we took the understand the business, and then we went through the company controls, fraud history, and fraud procedures. What are the preventive controls company having to limit fraudulent activities? So all should be evaluated and documented, right? So then what you can do is you have to decide the planning materiality basis, right? So then you can calculate materiality basis. Once you are calculating materiality, so the three different material levels are there. Three different material levels are there. So what are the three different material levels? First one, overall material level. Overall material level. Second one, performance material level. Performance material level. What do you mean by performance material? PM? No. Performance material means TE. TE means, so whatever the procedures you are doing, you have to use TE for the procedures. Whatever the decision you are taking over for the overall financial statement, you have to take the planning materiality. So that's the ultimate material level. So the to the TE mean, so that is the performance material level. So then we have nominal amount, summary of audit difference. So that what's the level we have, we can neglect the numbers. So that is the nominal amount, trivial amount, nominal amount, sad amount, right? So it means we have three different material levels in audit, right? Three different material levels, like this way. 20,000 is the materiality, planning materiality. So then the TE 10,000, nominal amount 1,000. Right. So then you should calculate material levels. After calculating material levels, based on the material levels, you can select significant accounts, right? Significant accounts. Significant account should be select. So you won't do the audit for the all the accounts. So you have to select significant accounts and significant disclosures. So the financial statement consists with account balances and disclosures. We are not auditing all. What we are doing, we are selecting only significant things which were relevant to the statement of the stakeholders of the financial statements, right? So significant accounts and disclosures, right? So then these are the significant accounts and disclosures we can select. It may be cost of PP&E, depreciation, relevant gain and loss, revaluation gain, PPE disposal gain, salaries and expenses. So these are the significant accounts, right? Significant accounts and disclosures. So we can add disclosures here. Revaluation disclosure. Evaluation disclosure. revenue recognition disclosure. Likewise, we can add. So, loan maturity disclosure. So, we can add RPD disclosure, fair value disclosure, earning per share disclosure, contingent liability disclosure. So, these are the key things, key areas of the financial statement, significant areas, right? So, these significant accounts and significant disclosures came into the picture because of what? Significant transactions. Because of transaction of the company. What are the transactions? What are the transactions? Purchasing PP&E, calculating depreciation, selling 2 computers, paying January month salary, paying gratuity expense, credit sale, debit sale, right? Paying electricity, paying water bill. So because of millions of transactions during a year. So imagine in a hotel company, in a garment, in a in a bank, in an insurance company, in a hydropower company, in a retail company. Imagine Cargill Food City. Imagine Apico Super Center. So during a day, we have millions of transactions, right? Because of these transactions only, we are ending up with account balances and disclosures, right? So then what we are doing is we identifying account balances, transactions here, transactions, right? Transactions. So we identify transaction during the period. අපි transaction during the period අපිට හැම transaction එකම check කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? හැම transaction එකම check කරන්න බෑ. අපිට significant transaction select කරලා check කරන්න පුළුවන් significant account වගේ. එහෙම කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. මොකද මිලියන ගාණක් transaction තියෙනවා. අපිට හැබැයි accounts and disclosures තිබුණේ ගණන් කරන්න පුළුවන් ගාණ. එතකොට ඒ ටික බලලා අපිට significant ටික select කරගත්තා. ඒක නිසා අපිට පුළුවන් වුණා significant accounts and disclosures විතරක් check කරන්න අපිට. හැබැයි transaction ගත්තොත් transaction තියෙනවා මිලියන ගාණක්. අපිට significant transaction විතරක් select කරගන්න මාර අමාරුයි. significant ටිකක් තෝරගෙන ආයි significant ඒවා බලන ආයි significant ඒවා බැලුවොත් තමයි 10ක් 15ක් එන්නේ. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? practically. දැන් මාර ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේද auditor facing a difficult trouble because we have millions of transactions during the period. We can select significant transactions. So if it is so, we can easily select significant account balance and transactions and disclosures easily, right? So then what we can do? අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? Millions of transactions අපි එක features බලලා එකේ සමාන ලක්ෂණ අනුව අපි class කරනවා ඒවා group කරනවා ඒවා අපි cluster වලට හදනවා එක bunch එකකට හදනවා ඒවා ඒ bunch එකට කියනවා what significant class of transactions අපි ඒක කියනවා class of transaction කියලා ඒ class of transaction අඳුනගෙන ඉවර වුණාට පස්සේ අපි ඒකෙන් අඳුන ගන්නවා significant class of transaction තේරුණාද දැන් කියන දේ so in a company we have millions of transactions. Based on similar characteristics, what we can do is we can class these transactions. So we may have then 50,000 classes. We have millions of transactions, we have 50,000 classes. From 50,000 classes, we are selecting only 50, only 40, only 10 significant class of transactions. Right? So then we have selected all the significant things. Significant class of transactions, significant account, significant disclosures, right? I think you are on the track. So then what we are doing is, so we are to all the significant class of transaction we do walkthrough testing. What do you mean by walkthrough testing? Walkthrough testing. Walkthrough testing means So in a control, we have three stages: design, implementation, and operation. Design, implementation, and operation. Simple. අපි control එකක් company එක design එකක් තියෙනවා, implement කරන්න ඕන, operation එකක් තියෙනවා. මොනවද මේ design, implementation, operation කියන්නේ? Control එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? So in our personal life also we have a control. What are the controls? So because of COVID we have to wear mask. That's a control, right? Preventive control. So so once we are driving a motorbike we have to wear helmet. Basic control. So if you having an exam you have to get up early. That's a control. To an exam we have an entrance time and exit time. That's a control, right? In our personal life also we have controls. So those things should be designed and implement and operate. ඒක අපි හිතන්න ඕන, implement කරන්න ඕන, ඒක කරගෙන යන්න ඕන. Stages තුනක් තියෙනවා හැමදේම. හිතන්න ඕන control එක, implement start කරන්න ඕන, කරගෙන යන්න ඕන. So that is not easy, right? Design, implement, and operate. So අපි normal company එක control එකක් බැලුවත් මේ තුනම තියෙනවා. Design means deciding the control attributes. Deciding the control attributes is the design of the control. Designing the control attributes. What are the control attributes? Who, how, what, when. What are the control attributes? Who, how, what, when. කවුද කරන්නේ, කොහොමද කරන්නේ, මොන වෙලාව මොකද්ද කරන්නේ, මොන වෙලාවෙද කරන්නේ කියන එක අපි decide කරන්න. ඒක තමයි කියන්නේ control attributes කියලා. කවුද කරන්නේ? CFO. කොහොමද කරන්නේ? පෑනෙන් sign කරන්න ඕන. මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? කොහොමද කරන්නේ? පෑනෙන් කරන්නේ. මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? sign කරන්න ඕන. මොන වෙලාවටද? more than 500,000 payment එකකට. අන්න ඒක decide කරන්න ඕන මුලින්. අනේ decide කරන එකට කියනවා design of the control කියලා. ඒක කවුද කරන්නේ? It should be done by the top management of the company, right? So after deciding that, you have to implement this. ඒක start කරන්න ඕනේ company එකේ. start කරාම ඒක CFO කෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඕන, පෑනක් තියෙන්න ඕන, more than 500,000 payment යන්න ඕන. ඒ සේරම තියෙන්න ඕන. එතකොට more than 500,000 payment යනකොට signature එකට approval එකට ගේන්න කෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඕන. එතකොට ඒවා document කරන්න විදියක් තියෙන්න ඕන. Likewise we have to have a proper process, right? Then implementation done. So then operation. අපි design කරලා implement කරලා සේරම කරලා ඉවර වෙලා operation එක හරියට වෙන්නේ නැත්තම්, හරියට වැඩේ වේගෙන යන්නේ නැත්තම්, හරියට දැන් so we have a CFO, we have that the control procedure manual also, we have implemented that also, and so the 500,000, more than 500,000 payments are, many payments are there, so only one CFO can't do this. So then what they are doing is the finance manager do the signature and issuing the check. ඒක practical operation එක කරන්නේ නැහැ මේ කට්ටිය. ඒතකොට අන්න ඒක issue එකක්, right? It's a kind of a override of control. So in a company we need to test these controls, right? We need to test this control. Controls are the heart of a transaction process, right? So once we are doing a walkthrough, we are testing three elements of a control. Two elements. What are the two elements? Design and implementation effectiveness. Design and implementation effectiveness. We are focusing through a walkthrough, right? From the walkthrough, how we are doing a walkthrough? So selecting one sample, its basis, random basis or your judgment. You can select one sample representing all the transaction in the in the class. You can do the walkthrough, right? To do the understanding about the design and implementation. So for the PP&E, we have to do a walkthrough, and then payroll we can do the walkthrough, right? So then what we can do? So other thing is I need to highlight that all the significant accounts and disclosures, all the significant accounts and disclosures identified ones should be linked with the significant scores. Why? අපි identify කරගත්ත significant accounts balance and transaction set එකම link වෙන්න ඕන significant class of transaction එක්ක. ඇයි ඒ? මම මුලින් කිව්වා significant accounts and disclosures ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන significant transaction නිසා කියලා. නේද? දැන් ඒ නිසා ආවනම් the significant accounts and disclosures ආපු විදිය බලා ගන්න ඕන නම් ඒ significant accounts and disclosures ඒ class එකකට වැටිලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒතකොට significant account classes ඇතුලේ මේ significant account එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක අනිවාර්යෙන් significant class of transaction එකකුත් වෙනවා. අපි මොකද කරේ? අපි financial statement set එක ගත්තා, planning material declare කරගත්තා, significant accounts and disclosures identify කරගත්තා. කරගෙන අපි දැන් බැලුවා significant accounts and disclosures විතරක් බලලා audit එක ඉවර කරගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ, because as auditor we have to evaluate evidence relating to the control process of this account balances and transaction. එතකොට අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි during the period සේරම transaction ටික අරගෙන similar characteristic base කරගෙන class කරා. class උත් කියන ගොඩාක්. අපි මේ class එකෙන් significant class of transaction select කරගත්තා. කොහොමද select කරගන්නේ? අපේ significant accounts වැඩිලා තියෙනවා නම් මේකට relate වෙනවා නම් අන්න එහෙම අපි significant class of transaction කියලා ගත්තා. මොකද අපි මේ class of transaction ටික බලලා ඉවර වෙනකොට significant account සේරම ආපු විදිය අපි දැනගන්න ඕන. significant account ආපු විදිය walk through කරලා දැනගන්න ඕන නිසා. හරිද? We have to know the process of the significant account as auditor. තේරුණාද දන්නේ? සුරේඛ, are you okay? Sureka, are you there? So, Champika, are you available or am I audible? Right. So, if you are having any questions, you can ask. So, right. Please raise your hand so that the things I am discussing are okay with you understanding. And please raise your hand. Yeah, Deepat okay. Sampik okay. Ushani, are you there? Amila? So I think Ushani not there, Sureka not there. Amila raising hand. Okay, thanks. So Champika done. So Ushani, are you getting what I'm talking here? I think Ushani not responding. Sureka, what about you?
Hello.
Yeah, Champika.
Yeah, it's okay. We understood. Actually,
Right.
I was in the meeting from the beginning. During the first 1 hour, the mic was not active.
Right. That's what I.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem, no problem. So I was wondering that normally you are talking, you are supporting to the class, and so that's it. Okay, no problem. So always we are getting the difficulties in the virtual environment. So we'll do.
I think only the meeting organizer can activate the mute.
All right.
Mic.
So right. So then that's the setting. That meeting setting maybe should be changed, no? Manisha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So Manisha, once you are arranging that meeting, so please check whether these attendees can unmute themselves from their end. Otherwise, if we are taking that control with the host, we have to unmute their end, give the access, right?
Yes, sir. So then we are with walkthroughs, right? So then you have to know අපි දැන් audit procedures අහනවා නම් examiner මොකද හරියි. Please make sure to mention about the walkthrough, right? You have to start your work steps from the risk assessment, right? So if you are having an area to audit, you have to start your steps from your risk assessment. So walkthrough is a kind of a procedure we are doing for the risk assessment, right? Walkthrough is a process walkthrough is a work step we are doing for the risk assessment. After doing the walkthrough, after getting understanding about the Scots and significant accounts, so then we can start the risk assessment. Risk assessment. Risk assessment normally consists with what? Normally risk consists with what? Risk consists with risk of material misstatement plus detection risk, right? Risk of material misstatement plus detection risk. Overall risk, right? Audit risk. Audit risk equal detection risk plus risk of material misstatement. So the risk of material misstatement consisted inherent risk plus what? Control risk, right? So detection risk from the auditor's end. Auditor ගේ පැත්තෙන් issues අහු නොවෙන්න තියෙන probability එක තමයි detection risk කියලා කිව්වේ. ඊට පස්සේ risk of material misstatement කියලා කියන්නේ client ගේ පැත්තෙන්, customer ගේ පැත්තෙන්, right? So these are the areas that company can do mistakes. So that may be inherent risk. Inherently, that area, that company process may be at risk, right? So on the other hand, control risk. Inherent risk plus control risk, right? So then through the walkthrough, what we are checking? From the walkthrough, we are evaluating control risk of the Scots, control risk. So how you can get the understanding about inherent risk? Inherent risk through the judgment and experience, and so you did the testing for understanding the business. With that understanding, you can evaluate the inherent risk, right? Inherent risk plus control risk. It means the risk of material misstatement. Risk of material misstatement, right? So that's the risk
company have. That's the company specific risk, right? So these are the areas you need to understand. So then you can finalize risk assessment. After you finalize in the risk assessment, you can have a kind of a summary document for the audit planning and risk assessment, right? That may be the audit plan, right? It should be included risk assessment, walkthroughs, identifying scores, identifying significant accounts, calculating materiality levels, understand the business, the entity level controls, those things should be included. This is the planning and risk assessment. See, still we add the planning and risk assessment. Planning and risk assessment, right? So then, after that, you can start execution, right? අපි ඔන්න දැන් තමයි ඔඩිට් එක පටන් ගන්නෙ. ඔඩිට් එක පටන් ගන්නෙ ඔඩිට් එක කරන්න යන්නේ. කියන්නේ process එක පටන් ගන්න. එතකොට ඔඩිට් procedures මේ වෙනකොට අපි decide කරලා ඉවරද? Risk assessment එක කළා we have to plan audit procedures. We have to plan test of control procedures. ඒ ටිකත් plan කරලා තියෙන්නේ මේ වෙනකොට. කළා we have to start the audit. The execution part should be started, right? So then, execution and conclusion finally. Execution part. මොනවද execution එකට එන්නේ කියලා හිතන්නේ? Execution එකට එන්නේ what are the things we are taking to the execution? Control procedures and substantive procedures. Main audit procedures දෙක මොකක්ද? TOC and substantive procedures. TOC and substantive procedures. දැන් අද මම මෙතනදී මම ක්ලාස් එකේදී උගන්වපු නැති දෙයක් උගන්වනවා, right? So under execution, not only TOC and substantive procedures, we have to do other audit procedures as well. Other audit procedures, other primary audit procedures. What are the other audit procedures? Why we are doing those things? Other audit procedures. So I didn't mention this in the class, right? So on the execution, I told you that basically we have to do TOC plus substantive procedures. Once you are doing TOC, we are testing, still we remain with the one aspect of control. We have done with design and implementation through walkthroughs, but operation is still pending. Operation will be tested under TOC, right? We are only checking critical controls, not all the controls. That is really important, right? We are only checking critical controls, right? TOC. So once you are doing TOC, we have to use random sampling, right? Random sampling. Normally you are use some random sampling. So once you are doing with TOC, there's a result. It's reliant control or not reliant control, right? Reliant control or not reliant control. So then after having this conclusion, you have that previous risk assessment, and then you can reassess that. Again, we are focusing about control risk. According to the TOC, you can reassess the risk of material misstatement, right? So then, based on risk of material misstatement, risk assessment, you can decide your scope for the substantive procedures. You can decide your scope for the substantive procedures. How you can decide the scope? It may be a percentage from. So you are going to do substantive procedures. It means, as I told you, we have 3 material levels. PM, TE, nominal amount. So what's the material they have to take for the performance audit procedures? TE. So from TE we have to make a percentage to the scope. That percentage will be decided based on the risk assessment, right? This percentage will be decided on the risk assessment. If it is high risk, we have to get less percentage, 5% of TE. If it is a lesser risk, 50% of the TE, right? What is the high scope? 5% or 50%? B part, 5% or 50%? What's the high scope? It should be 55%. 5% is the high scope, risky area, right? If it is risk, the scope amount should be less, then it's a high scope, right? 50% is less scope. So then you have to perform substantive procedures, right? So then examiner can ask, once you are doing audit, once you are executing audit, the test of control should be interlinked with the substantive procedures. How you can elaborate this statement? How you can elaborate this statement? How you can explain this statement? So once you are doing TOC, that answer should be test reliant control or not reliant control. Based on that, we have to assess the risk assessment, and according to that, we decide the scope of the substantive procedures. So then we have to do substantive procedures according to that scope. It means the TOC results will be impact to the gravity of the substantive procedures, number of substantive procedures, right? So other than these substantive procedures and TOC, what we have to do is other audit procedures. Other audit procedures. What are they? JE testing. JE testing. Board minutes testing. Board minutes testing. What else? RPT testing. So then laws and regulation testing. Post balance sheet. Post balance sheet event testing. So these are the general audit procedures. Other general audit procedures we have to perform to conclude the audit, right? So keep in mind that examiner can ask questions relating to this as well, right? So some areas having separate auditing standards like laws and regulations, post balance sheet events, RPT transactions. So those are covering through separate auditing standards, right? So you should have a kind of a visual on your mind about this execution. So the planning stuff done, and we took the draft accounts, and then we are going to issue the audit report. After that, it will be audited accounts. So then we did the independence, and then prepare the audit engagement letter. And then we understood the business and entry level controls, fraud, calculate material levels, significant accounts and disclosures, transactions, significant class of transactions.
So then they did the walkthrough relating to the plan, the design and implementation of controls, and then we did the risk assessment and planned audit procedures, and finally prepare the audit plan, right? So under execution, we execute audit plan here, audit plan, right? So finally, we are coming to conclusion. After evaluating all the audit, after doing all the audit procedures, we have to, through all the audit procedures, we have to take what? Sufficient and appropriate audit evidences, output. After getting sufficient and appropriate audit evidences, so we can conclude the audit, right? Once we are concluding the audit, we have to conclude each and every significant accounts and significant disclosures. And if we have misstatements, you need to summarize and you need to conclude, you have to pass entries and you have to finalize these things, right? So whatever the balances, differences under the above nominal amount between TE and nominal amount, we have to accumulate these things, issues. Accumulating these issue A, B, C, D, and then we can summarize these things. Amount, right? 120, 50, 10, 60. So we can check all together. This is minus. So then so altogether 20 is the total impact. So we can say that summary of audit differences. So all the issues we can summarize this way, right? We can evaluate the P&L impact, balance sheet impact, and based on these things, you can decide what is the opinion we are giving, right? What is the opinion we are giving? So what is the opinion we are giving? So then that opinion should come into your mind. What is the opinion? So this area, this chapter should be came into your mind at this situation, right? So you can see this. This is the basis you have to use for doing a audit opinion. That's audit conclusion, right? So, do you want to check with this in the auditing standards? Do you want that? Let's go to auditing standards. What's the standard? You have to refer. What's the standard? SLA US 76706 or 705. Sorry, 705. So this is the diagram I wanted to highlight. See? This is the chart you have to capture to your mind. So through this revision, if I can give this chart at least to your mind, your head, so I am okay, right? This is the core, right? So please remember this chart. So once you are issuing audit opinion, this is the guidance you have to take. So this side what we have, statement and scope limitation. Inability to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence. Scope limitation. Is that material or but not pervasive? Material and pervasive. Now, adverse opinion, disclaim opinion. Audit qualification එන්න පුළුවන් විදි දෙකක් තියෙනවා. Statement එකක් හරි scope limitation එකක් හරි material නම් material only නම් audit qualification එන්නේ. මේ basis එක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න ඕන to address the to go to the exam, right? Please remember, that's why I am repeating. නැත්නම් මට මම Excel එකේ කරපු එක ආයෙත් standard එකේ ගිහිල්ලා පෙන්නන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඔයා දෙතුන් පාරක් දකින්නකොට දෙතුන් පාරක් අහනකොට ඔයා familiar වෙනවා. එතකොට ඔයාට ලේසියෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකයි මගේ objective එක, right? Okay. So we are at the conclusion stage of audit, right? So then we are issuing the audit report. So we are issuing the audit report now. Then see, we wanted to issue the audit report, right? Audit report. So after doing this detailed process, after doing calculations, after doing evaluations, so we are issuing the audit report ultimately with the opinion. That may be reasonable opinion or that may be limited opinion, right? Reasonable assurance or limited assurance. It depends. So after issuing the audit report, so then we can discuss about the content of the audit report, like we discussed, right? So then we have to discuss this audit report. This content of the audit report. Content of the audit report.
Audit report, right? So this audit report can be qualified or the adverse or disclaimer, right? So then you can understand other than this, what? It may be emphasis a matter. Emphasis a matter. Other matter. Other matter. Emphasis a matter and other matter paragraph. මොන වෙලාවටද මේක දෙන්නේ? Emphasis a matter, other matter paragraph. මොන වෙලාවටද දෙන්නේ? Emphasis a matter paragraph and other matter paragraph. Emphasis a matter paragraph, other matter paragraph දෙනවා නම් opinion එක modify වෙනවා, but opinion එකට impact එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? Opinion එක modify වෙනවා, ඒ opinion එක impact එකක් නැහැ. True and fair view එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ, but there's emphasis a matter. But there's other matter. Emphasis a matter එකක් දෙන්නේ හැම වෙලේම. So whatever the information you want to emphasize, which relates, is included in the financial statement. If it is so, you want to give emphasis. That should be included in the financial statement. That should be included in the under accounts, balances and disclosures. If it is so, you have to emphasize. අපි මොන හරි තියෙන දෙයක් තමයි emphasize කරන්නේ. අපිට අපි අලුතෙන් watch එකක් ගත්තා නම් අපි emphasize කරනවා. අලුතෙන් phone එකක් ගත්තා නම් mirror එකක් ගාවට ගිහිල්ලා selfie දානවා. එකක් ගහලා දානවා නේ. emphasize කරනවා. අපි ගත්තා මේක කියලා. නිකන් line එකට නේද? ඒ වගේ. එතකොට තියෙන දෙයක් තමයි emphasize කරන්න ඕන. නිකන් shade කරනවා, highlight කරනවා වගේ. එහෙනම් difference එක මොකක්ද? other matter paragraph එකක් දෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? other matter paragraph එකක් දෙන්නේ ඒ දේ මේකේ නෑ account set එකේ. disclosure වලවත් නෑ, account balances වලවත් නෑ, but අපි other matter එකක් වෙන තියෙන දෙයක් auditorගේ audit opinion එක accounts balance එකේ important දෙයක් නම් එක දෙන්නේ other matter එකක් විදියට. Keep in mind that difference, right? So example මොනවද? ගිය අවුරුදු audit එක අපි කළා නෑ, මේ අවුරුදු initial audit එකක් නම් අපි other matter paragraph එකක් දානවා. එතකොට ඒක ගිය අවුරුදු audit එක වෙන කෙනෙක් කරලා තියෙන, මේක කෙනෙක් කරලා තියෙන කියලා audit මේකෙන් පේන ඇතුළේ තියෙනවද නැහැ? ඒක other matter එකක් දාන්න වෙනවා. හරිද? ඊට පස්සේ මොන හරි legal මොන හරි තියෙනවා නම් regulatory para එකේ අපි ඒක දානවා. වෙන මොන හරි other matter එකක් governance breach එකක් නම් account set එක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා. ඒක emphasize කරන්න ඕන නම් අපි ඒක emphasis එකක් තමයි දාන්න ඕන දෙන්නේ. Going concern doubt එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක අපි we have to use emphasis a matter. right? ඔයාලා detail බලා ගන්න මේ දෙක. මොකද මේ area එක මාර critical. This is a really critical area, right? Really important area. The high risk zone. Right? So this is high risk area. So be prepared for that. So then audit opinion also done. So then planning, execution, conclusion. We know the subject now. So what we can do now? whatever the syllabus area we discuss, we can put into this chart. Governance and internal control framework, audit planning and risk assessment. So the governance and internal control framework, we basically discuss the basic areas, right? So tomorrow, that Thursday, we'll discuss that. So the audit planning and risk assessment, we can go through that. So today what I did was I in detail discussed the audit process and the background and the link between all the areas, right? So then, if we are using sample testing, what is the area we are using? At the execution, we use samples, right? As the execution, we use sample testing, right? All the subject areas we can relate to this process. So then next week, not next week, Thursday from the revision, what I am planning to do is I am going through the overall syllabus and link with this process, and we are discussing with the difficult areas, deferred tax, and then market advanced auditing we are discussing. Advanced auditing in the sense fair value auditing and biological asset auditing, impairment auditing, and then going concern auditing. So this time uh, highly famous area going concern because of COVID-19. So many companies are struggling with going concern issues, right? So auditors are evaluating these things. What are the procedures we have to do? What is the responses? According to SLA US 570, how we can use this for the audit process? What is the conclusion we can give? So these are very critical area going concern. So I am discussing these things. And then I will share what is the target areas in the exam, right? So I too discussing about the internal auditing, ethics, right? So quality control of auditing. So these things will be discussed based on this foundation. So I think within this 3 hours, not 3 hours actually, we had a break also. Within let's say around 2 hours. So I think that I was able to give kind of a good understanding, the start to audit process. පාට අදින්දලා ස්ටාර්ට් කරොත් දෙසැම්බර් 19 වෙනකොට පාට ලොකු දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. පාට ක්ලාස් යන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. පාට ACCA පේපර් කරන්නත් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. ඔයා ස්ටඩි ටෙක්ස්ට් එක කියවන්න. ඊට පස්සේ පාස් පේපර්ස් කරන්න. මගේ ක්‍රිටිකල් මැසේජ් එක තමයි ඔයා කොච්චර ඔඩිට් එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් තිබුණත්, ඔයා කොච්චර ක්ලාස් ගියත්, ඔයා කොච්චර රිවිෂන් කරත් මුකුත් අදාළ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයා ලස්සනට ලියන්න පුළුවන් ඔඩිට් පේපර් එක. Right? So the audit paper is a kind of a presentation, right? So you have to be a good writer. You have to write to the question, not the. So examiner asking a detailed question, you can't, as I said in the class, what a theory part එක මෙතන ලියන වැඩක් නැහැ. කේස් එකට relevant කරලා අහන ප්‍රශ්නෙට විතරක් උත්තරේ ලියන්න ඕන. I shared my experience with you all before 6 years back. 6 years back, I did an audit paper. I got only 21 marks or 24 marks. So I did classes at that time because I had 4-year experience auditing. So I was a supervisor or senior accountant. So I have many experience about auditing. I'm kind of an expert among my colleagues, right? So I did like cookies and classes to my colleagues and who did mercantile experience. So I guide them. So they passed the exam. I ended with the 21 marks. Once I'm leaving from the exam hall, I felt like I have more than 90. I felt like more than 90. So there was a doubt, no? There's a, you know, there's a something. First, මම ඇවිල්ලා බැලුවා what's the reason, what I did and මොකක්ද ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. So once I'm doing the exam, I asked 2 booklets, extra booklets, and gave the answers. The normal booklet plus 2 booklets. එතකොට examiner-ට exam paper එක mark කරන්න නෙමෙයි මම කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද්ද කරලා තියෙන්නේ? මම theory සේරම ලියලා booklet 3ක් අරගෙන. ඒක නෙමෙයි CL1 කියන්නේ. වාගෙන් අහන ප්‍රශ්නෙට chartered accountant කෙනෙක් වගේ උත්තර දෙන්න ඕන. වාගෙන් yes no answers නෙමෙයි අහන්නේ, third answer එකක් අහන්නේ. එතකොට වාගෙන් අහන්නේ මේක මෙහෙම කරන්නද කියලා. වා කියන්න ඕන මෙහෙම කරොත් මෙහෙම වෙනවා. මෙහෙම කරොත් මෙහෙමත් වෙනවා. හැබැයි මෙතෙන්ට හොඳම දේ මේක කියලා කියන්න ඕන උත්තරේ. So that's the answers the examiner expected from you as a chartered accountant, right? Audit manager. So be prepared to that. That is not easy. That is not easy. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අතින් ලියලා පුරුදු වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඊට පස්සේ මම හිතුවා මේක කරන්න බෑ. මෙච්චර ලියලා 21ක් නම් මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ කොච්චර හොඳට ලියන්න ඕනද 50ක් ගන්න කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ වැඩි පාඩම් කරේ නෑ. What I did was I tried to do writing. ලියන්නේ අඩුයිනේ කොහොමද අපි දැන් we are working with computers and mobile phones and all. Our brain and hand connection is not there. So that connection should be in this paper. නිසා අතින් ලියලා පුරුදු වෙන්න ඕනේ exam එකට යන්න කලින් නැත්නම් ආ ෆේල් වෙනවමයි. ආ ක්ලාස් ගියා නොගිය අදාළ නැහැ. ආ රිවිෂන් ගියා නොගිය අදාළ නැහැ. මොනෝ කරත් අදාළ නැහැ. ආ අතින් ලියලා පුරුදු වෙලා යන්න ඕනේ exam එකට. audit paper එකට. හැබැයි management accounting, finance accounting ඒවට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ ලොකුවට අතින් ලියලා යන්න. මේකට හොඳ presentation එකක් කරන්න ඕනේ. මම අතින් ලිව්වා papers. හරිද? paper එකෙම ලියන්න ගියේ නෑ. question වල ලිව්වා. ලියලා practice කරගත්තා. ඒක ගොඩක් පාඩම් කරේ නෑ. paper එකට ගියා. booklet එක ඉතුරු නෑ. first booklet එක පිරෙන්න ලිව්වා. එච්චරයි. තව booklet ඉල්ලන්න ඕනේ නෑ. හැම ප්‍රශ්නෙටම උත්තර ලිව්වා. I got around 59 or something. Nearby 60. I 57 or I didn't get 100 marks. I'm not telling that. So I took 57 or something. So that's the approach. So I wanted to share with you. So do that and get advice from that. So then you can do easily this exam. මේක අතාරින්න එපා. ඔය අද පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. මම කියන්නේ මම මාස 3ක් 4ක් කරන් ඉන්න ඕන කියලා. අද start කරන්න. But you have to do a commitment and do practice to write answers and easily you can get through the exam. මගේ class ආපු කට්ටියට මම කිව්වේ මට 50 ගන්න එක ගේමක් නෑ. class එක ඉවර වෙනකොට ආ practical audit කෙනෙක් අල්ල තමයි යවන්නේ කියලා. So then ඒක feel වෙන්න ඕනම question එකක් ඕනම විදිහට answer එකක් develop කරලා උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන තත්ත්වෙට ගන්න පුළුවන් මට්ටමකට එනවා. right? So එතකොට ඔයාට 50ක් අරගෙන exam pass වෙනට වඩා audit ඉගෙනගෙන company එකේ වැඩට ගියාම audit එක face කරන්න. audit එකක් කරනකොට අපි කොහොමද strategically face කරන්නේ? ඒක audit දන්නවනේ ලේසි. මේ virus guard එක හදන්න virus එක හදන්න දන්න කෙනා තමයි virus guard එක හදන්න දන්නේ. ඒක audit කරන්න දන්න කෙනා audit එකට face කරනකොට හරි audit එකටත් දෙන්න පුළුවන් දුවන්න නේද? ඒතකොට අන්නේ skill එක තමයි ඕන. 50ක් ගන්න එක නෙමෙයි වැඩේ හොඳද? So from a chartered accountant we society expect that power, right? So do that, live with it. So then you can do this exam easily. ඒ thought එකත් එක්ක let's find up for today. So again we'll meet up for the second revision with advanced auditing part, key audit aspects and target questions, target areas, So covering all the syllabus, right? So we'll meet up Thursday 7 o'clock. ඔයාලගේ යාළුවෝ ඉන්නව නම් කියන්න මේක කරන්නේ මේ fees ගන්න charge ගන්න නෙමෙයි purpose එක ළමයින්ට ඔඩිට් උගන්වන එක spread කරන එක plus IOEL කියන institution එක මේ promote කරන එක ඒ institution එක ගැනත් කියන්න ඒකත් good institution එකක් මොකද මේ reasonable charge එකක් අපි charge කරන්නේ 1500 per month serum tube දීලා video දීලා so overall මාස අපි ගත්තොත් syllabus cover කරලා දැන් ඉවරයි අපි මාස plan එක ගත්තොත් wait yes it's not included wait here so we started August September October November so we are at November within 4 months we all did today we are doing the revision right today we are doing the revision within this so the sharp at the today 11th sorry November 30th we do the revision right so this is the plan we distributed on August month so again December we have a revision and then again we have a kind of a brief discussion again model paper is there so we had 2 model papers and again we are pending with another one MCQ questions so we do kind of a plan and stick with the plan extra work are there so you all can recommend that IOEL class to your colleagues and so the core areas are very interactive with the people we are discussing questions and they are taking their problems to the class so interactive sessions and the cost for all 4 weeks we charge per month 1500 I guess for altogether 6000 overall course right per month 1500 for 4 months 6000 you can learn one subject by using this kind of a cost it may be reasonable to your end we think about audit trainees and rural areas people who are in rural areas so they can afford this now so that's a concept we are spreading so you can be an ambassador, you can be a messenger to this as well. So that's kind of advertisement. Don't think bit about that. And more than that, think about your exam and do hard work. And if you are interested in, please come to the Thursday class. So we'll finalize and we conclude. And from that onward, you can ready for the exam. මම එදාට කියන්නේ එදාට ඔයාලට exam එක දීලා මොනවද ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඔයා track එකේ හිටියේ නැත්නම් track එක දාගෙන exam එකට පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් එදා ඉඳලා. හරිද? ඒක කරගන්න පුළුවන්. So we'll meet up Thursday. So ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න අනිත් එක මොන හරි තව දේවල් කරන්න තියෙනවා නම් මොන හරි කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේක සර් කරන්න sir if you can take you through this area will be more important අපිට මේක තේරුන්නේ නැහැ එහෙම කියනවා නම් මම ඒරියා එක මූ ફોකස් කරලා කරන්න. එහෙම රික්වෙස්ට් තියෙනවා නම් කරන්න. කතා කරන්න බය නම් chat box එකට දාන්න. right anything I think you are done with the course. මම හිතනවා අද තේරුණා මොන හරි දේවල් ටිකක් ගත්තා. Thank you very much for joining. So we will meet up Thursday. Thank you very much. Good night, all of you.